were not coming with their wives. And you know, as men, they couldn't stay longer. So yes, without it. So they were abusing some of the women. Those who said no, those who denied them, those who wanted to protect their little dignities left. They are Santua kind of women. About 8 of these very innocent women were pushed inside there. They locked them, heavy metal door. And soon food, water, once again. The soldier will be here just to keep an eye on them. This was a spy hole. Move.
So that's the gate of no return?
No, there's a
tunnel. Once again to my channel, I am right in front of the Cape Coast Castle. We're going to walk into the castle. I'm going to show you how our forefathers were treated as slaves through the Cape Coast Castle. Try me, let's go. So that's the art garden within the castle. Wow, this is where the slave story started. What's that? Where do I buy the ticket? Can I buy it from here? I'm a Ghanaian. How much? 20 cities. Oh, okay. So we inside the Cape Coast Castle. So I'm entering the dungeon. Oh, the place is dark. Wow.
They sorted them out, they counted them. So to know those who died and those who survived. That is why they created this one, for more light, so to see the marks, for easy sorting. And after that, those they saw were strong enough to survive the ships. The entrance to the tunnel was behind this bosom, or sealed with this wall. 1833, the British passed the law to end slave trade. So 1833, they sealed off the entrance. Manchester slave trade is over. When we go out, we shall see the time. This is a shrine. And there are 77 shrines in Cape Coast. And this particular one was here, long before they built the castle. We know. Yes, this one was sealed 1833. The shrine was brought back after we had a new built. Long before the revolution. Normally midnight of the 1st July, they lay flowers here. They lay within the name of our ancestors. Our homes will be done, especially African Americans. They bring some to honor their ancestors. So next time when you are coming, I would be expecting yours. Next time. This is for Reverend Philip Parker. The Parker of the Cape Coast Aya. The father of Philip Parker was doing buying and selling of slaves. The father was a middleman. Awarded Philip scholarship to State University. Attended Oxford University. They ordained him. He became first African to be ordained a priest of the Anglican Church in the church. He died 17th October 1816. He was 75. And I told you, slave trade was abolished here, 1833. He died 1860. Letitia Elizabeth London. She came to visit Queen George McLean, but she died just 2 months after she came. Gossips had it on malaria. Others are saying that when she came, not George McLean was something like that. But Miss Elibana was. When Letitia heard that, out of jealousy, she poisoned herself. Others are saying the girlfriend poisoned her. So to date, we don't know how to live with her. She died in 1838. She was 36. This George McLean came here as administrator. He designed a bond known in Ghana as the bond of 18. Then Governor Commander Hill, with 8 Ghanaian chiefs, fancy chiefs, signed the bond on 6th March 1844. Gold Coast, now Ghana, became a colony to the British. So see, the British were our slave masters. Commonwealth. I don't even know what untold they get from the Commonwealth. Because the Commonwealth games are never played in Africa.
Ghana is a Commonwealth boss now.
Yes, so let's all come out of that. I don't think they will give her that much
attention
and respect. Malaria killed him. Malaria killed George McLean. 1847, he was 46. So see, the Benin Philip Kwaku was 75. The African man was 75. For the Europeans, 38, 36, 46. Malaria. Please be careful though. Be very careful. Especially if you want to take a picture.
What was this used for?
Water reservoir.
Water reservoir, okay.
To be rigged. If I say better mama, we'll fetch water from here for you to shine out. This can hold about 3,000 gallons.
Take the camera.
Condemned cell, in other words, room of no return. Please reduce your height, bend down.
This is crazy. Look at the heat.
So you can see there was a door there. When it was a storeroom, the door was there. Sam and I wanted to fight for their freedom, but they were seen by the British as stubborn or rebellious ones. But you know, they were made to suffer for too long. And when man is suppressed, oppressed, depressed, or repressed for a long time, one day there, you fight back. Those who tried to escape and were caught, and those who constantly fought back, they will chain all of them together, push them in, lock them on first, second, third door. The doors were three.
So how do you breathe?
No light, no ventilation, meaning no oxygen, no food for them, no water. 2-3 days, maximum 4 days. When they lock the doors, they will make sure someone know and someone here. I mean, even after 3 days, they don't say. After 3 days, when they open, see 1 or 2 still alive, they will shut the doors again. The last person is gone. So if I'm here with you, and if you die before me, the only thing I could do to sit or lie by the bodies with a chain on the ankles, my ankles, waiting for my turn to go.
Oh.
If you died on the first day, by the third, the fourth day, after they will bring in some of the male slaves for the bodies, then gather all others at the courtyard where the graves are. More for bodies, and they will instruct them to go show the bodies to those gathered for them to see. That is why this room is called condemned cell. Alive, but they will take you out.
Very emotional here. How our forefathers have actually gone through stress, strain, pain, and all that.
Slave markets is far bigger than the church. And we shall see the church soon. Meaning, where they were making their cash was more important to them than where they claim worshipping their God. So, palava. I learned palava is a Portuguese word, which means confusion or trouble. The British adopted same palava, but to them palava meant to bargain, like negotiate. But in Ghana, palava is a sauce. So we also have palava sauce in Ghana. Very nice and nutritious. There were doctors, nurses, merchant company representatives in here. The merchant, the buyers who set their tables on, and on their tables you see guns, gunpowders, mirrors, used fabrics, tobacco, and all that. Those captives brought here by middlemen and other individual slave traders were those who were first brought here. They were kidnapped, they were deceived. When they had these ones, straight into the dungeons. They also had some slave markets inland, like Salaga. Salaga is in the northern part of Ghana, and that's where they had the biggest slave market at the time. You know, there existed a form of slavery before the Europeans came, right? So the Europeans were, should I say, smart, to the extent that they were not going to those slave markets to purchase themselves. Rather, they will send some local people to go buy for them. So if your fellow African is purchasing 10 prisoners of war, you never think they will end up in the dungeons. You think he's going to use them to work on his farm, plantation, or things like that. So they purchased for them when they brought them. But those brought here yet to be sold were those who were first brought here for examination and auction. Let's see where the big man was living. Original towns. This is where the soldiers were. Barracks, now souvenir shops. So after the tour, you could go downstairs and buy 1 or 2 souvenir home. That's it. This were the barracks. Garrison for the soldiers. Yes. You die, you rot in hell. One governor at a time. And they will not be coming with their families. No, their wives, no children, because of tropical diseases killing them. Men and probably were dying. Some of them arrived in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. But because of greed, they were still coming. So one person had this as his living room. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 windows. We entered the condemned cell and for a few minutes we were sweating. But they were up here, 9 windows. The bed near 5 windows. Another 2, 16 windows with about 3 doors. So they stayed upstairs, enjoyed the awesome breeze. Africans were held underground, poor, sometimes no ventilation. Let's see, it's bedroom. His bedroom. Wow. Bedroom for the governor. The white structure on the hill is Fort Williams. Wow. It's Fort Williams, aka Lighthouse. Yes, behind the church. And this one, and there's another one, but we cannot see the other one from here. The other one is around Accra, called Fort Victoria. And they built these 2 forts to protect this castle. They are all built on top of hills. So soldiers that so far they saw enemies coming first before soldiers at the barracks here. When they saw anything like that, they gave the information here. They were using signals, light, flags, and muskets. Are you okay? The signal, especially the flag, the color, determined what they wanted to send across. So they had a communication room downstairs. So they had a WhatsApp. His wardrobe. The governor had a wardrobe home. Governor's wardrobe. So always there will be a soldier here looking to this hole to take signals from the fort. So you look to that hole, you see Fort Williams. So this was the WhatsApp. Yeah, no. Communicate. They fit into that small hole to pick signals. Lights, flags, motions. Communication. His reception area. And that was his office. Personal office for the government. And check your office. He's not there.
The cannon bells. Europeans.
It's very profitable. Other European countries wanted to take over the facility. It's almost a cancer, no? They don't know to sit aloof. So they brought this to defend themselves. Pounded gunpowder to draw in the candle. A ball will fix there. Fire. Boom. Some of the balls are with holes. Those with holes were filled with gunpowder. Enter the wooden ships, explode. Those without holes enter the ships, created holes in the ships. Water came in, the ships gradually sank. Let's go to church. Don't be late for church. As they could be passing for church service and they could be dropping leftover food for the slaves. Imagine our own Uncle Philip passing for a service. He got a heard his fellow Africans screaming. He might think they're hungry, but I do them a favor. Can go back to his room, pick a piece of bread, drop it through this one. They'll struggle for their bread in their faces, in their urine, in their vomit. After you pass into the church and preach the gospel. So the tunnel ended here. Almost, this side. The entrance blocked, the exit blocked. And some years back, we wanted to remove all the walls in the tunnel so that we could walk you through and also to see what is actually in the tunnel. Because there are some historians who have the view, who are saying that when the British passed the law to end slave trade here, the male captives who were still in the dungeon were not freed. There was no ship coming to take them. So they pushed them into the tunnel and sealed it. They will not let them go to tell the people what they went through in the dungeons. To mobilize people come attack them. They were not ready to leave. So let's bury them to consider. And if you consider the number of people these guys killed, murdered, about 400 years. Killing like 10 of them in the tunnel, I don't think was a difficult thing for them to do. So from where the bosom is, they walked them here. Initially going out through this one. But see what was coming in. So they closed this. After, they joined the women here. To the door of no return. They put them on boats. 400, 500 meters. They put them on the ships and that was all. The slave ships were also called floating coffins. Very difficult for them to enter. And some of these ships had very ironic names. Names like Jesus, Santa Maria, Saint Mary, Hope, God is able. So imagine, ship of first slaves with the name Good Ship of Jesus. They were not coming with their wives. And as men, they couldn't stay longer. So yes, without it. So they were abusing some of the women. Those who said no, those who denied them, those who wanted to protect their little dignities left. They asked Antoine kind of women. About 8 of these very innocent women were pushed inside there. They locked them, heavy metal door. And soon food, water once a day. To could be that says there's a hole here for feces, for urine, for vomit, for blood. Because as young ladies, some of them being girls, when they were here and had their cycle, after 7-10 days, if you survive, they will allow you to go back to the dungeons. If you die, you'll be buried at sea. And out of this nonsense, some conceived. They built stone houses in town with nurses and midwives. So they took them there. A few months, few years after delivery, they brought back the mothers. Those who were weak were there as domestic slaves. Those who were strong, later they shipped them. The babies' majority died. The few that survived, they started a school with them, Cape Coast Castle School. Some grew up, became workers here, secretaries, clerks, spies. they sent some out. Some became supervisors because they were having light skin. You know, some of these missed children were named by their European fathers. Some local people adopted some European names. That is why, or these are some of the reasons there are several European names along the west coast of Africa. If you go to Accra, the Danish names are there: Van der Poel, Van Dyke, and others. Cape Coast, Smith, Grant, Wood, Yorks, Addison, Nelson, Thompson, Jackson, Ferguson. Yes, but you go to a place like Kumasi, Ashanti region, a typical Ashanti will happily bear a second name like Johnson, Chamantin, Granting, Boating. You've already seen the male dungeons, and this is where their female counterparts were held. Men manned down here 5, about 1,000 men, but women had 2 chambers because they needed more men than women to do the hard labor, but they needed the women again for reproduction. The children of slaves automatically became slaves, so they had this chamber for about 150 women. The other chamber for about 150. So they took about 300 women. And I once said they also taking children on. Those who were 30, a little above 13. And sometimes the children were not even counted. Were here with their mothers and their sisters. So imagine a 18, 19, 20, 25-year-old lady here with a 13-year-old boy right beside her and going through the cycle. No sanitary pad for them, no night cloth. They're not even allowed to sometimes shall take their pad. So it will come out, it will flow out, it will end and dry. The floor not excavated. So again, we are faces, urine, vomit, menstrual blood, and all that. Mixed with soil, petrified. Light ventilation originally from this house. But at Jimboniti, later they created these windows and they put iron bars in them. So they came from their living quarters because of the conditions here to avoid attacks. They were not entering. They would rather stand outside. They will look through. You come. Those they will select, they will allow them to shower, give them something to eat, something to wear, then to their bedrooms. Door famous door of no return. When you go through this door, you are going to lose everything as African. Your name, culture, family, religion, language. You even lose your dignity as a human being. Most of them were killed, most, because see, some researchers are saying that the Europeans had about 60 million enslaved Africans, 60 million slaves, in a business which lasted about 400 years. Out of the 60 million, there's only about 10, 11, 12 million made the journey. So if 12 million survived, meaning about 48 million were killed. That is why I told you, if they were able to kill like 48 million people, killing like 10 of them in the tunnel wasn't a difficult thing for them to do. And all these people we are talking about were young men and women. Most of them were between the ages of 13 to 45 years. Those were very strong, very energetic, very intelligent, were the kind of people they sent away. So Africa was robbed of her natural resources as well as human resources, and they are still robbing us. This that we can emphatically say European slave trade had and is still having huge negative effects on the continent, because what they used over 400 years to do, Ghana for instance cannot use just like 68 years to undo, just that the pace is too slow. So after they use same Africans to build the dungeons, to build their countries, you know, some of them now call Africans lazy people. Some of them are even saying we are living in shithole countries. But they always forget that they were the same people or their ancestors who created, still creating these so-called shitholes in order to develop their countries.
Oh, that's all.
It was short and narrow door. But I was telling you that the British were our slave masters. They came out colonial masters. So they were here even after slavery, because this castle was the seat of the colonial government. They were here even after slave trade, exporting gold, ivory, spices, later palm tree, till 1877 when they transferred the capital to Accra. So because of them stealing our resources, they widened the door. So they bowed down, captives bowed down, squeezed themselves one after the other, forced them to the door, and never returned. We are going to go to the door of no return, but I promise you, we are going to return.
So, can I ask a question? The missionaries, were they the same people doing the slave trade? Those who claim they brought Presby, Methodist?
They were not directly those buying, but they came with the slave ships. They were living in the slave castles with them. But the church, the Catholic Church, for instance, bought slaves. Yeah, so they brought them from the dungeons to the door of no return. Then the boat would take them to the ships. Then that would be all. All this place was from Jamaica. Samuel cousin from New York, America. They exhumed their bones from their respective graves. They thrown them to Accra. They boarded a car from Accra to Abandon. There is a fort there, Fort Amsterdam. When they got to Fort Amsterdam, they said, no, we are not going to go by land, by road again, rather, we will go by the sea, like the way our ancestors were sent away. So they put the remains on canoes, paddled down from Abandon, Fort Amsterdam back here. There were officials, family members waiting. When they arrived, the Pepepe, they received the bones, the skeletal remains from them, brought them to the door to the courtyard. And the very moment the remains passed to the door, the jinx of door of no return got broken. They had a ceremony here, and after the ceremony, they drove the remains to Ascent Mountain for their final resting place. There's a river at Ascent Mountain, ancestral slave river. When they were bringing the captives, when they got to the river banks, they stopped them. On the way, they would ship them, give them bath, polish them with Shabbat and Kudo. Now those were somehow old, weak, with some grey hairs who look younger, attractive, for higher prices in the passage. They spent weeks here, and as I told you, never back. Last African battle of Ascent. That is why they sent the two remains there for reburial. On that day, August 1, 1998, when the jinx of door of no return got broken, Ghanaians renamed the door of return, inviting our brothers and sisters, African Americans, African Caribbeans, African Europeans to come back to Africa to reconnect. That is why when we return, you saw the wall pasted Aquaba. Aquaba means welcome. Any question? Before we say bye-bye, we are all aware that the dungeons in all the slave castles are empty, meaning transatlantic European slave trade is indeed over. But sadly, painfully, we still see forms of slavery, injustice, unfair treatment in our homes, in our villages, in our cities, in our countries, child labor, child trafficking, child prostitution, racism, mental slavery. We abuse our house helps, workers, wives, children. Look at this thing going on in Ghana, in Africa. Some people, they see some young men and women, especially young ladies, they promise them better lives. Take them to especially some of the Gulf countries, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Dubai, Qatar and others. And these same people who promise them better lives, when they take them there, they then seize their passports. Some of them work, they don't pay them. Some of them are beaten mercilessly by their employers. Some of them are raped by them, and when they tell you their stories, realize that the kind of treatment, the kind of pain some of them go through in those countries is not that different from what happened in the countries. So we shall go out, do our best, and ensure that slavery and slavery will never and ever, okay, in any way, in any form, against any of the races. Because we may not know the next perpetrator and the next victim. On this note, we will end it all here. Once again, my name is Pa Kwesi Obey.
Cape Coast Castle here in Cape Coast Central region of Ghana. Like I say, thank you very much for watching. Hit the subscribe button to subscribe. Don't forget to comment, share, and like.